Dayney.
My security blanket, I always print it out. Good afternoon. My speech is titled Change because almost every day we hear about climate change in the news. And so I thought I'd talk about it and try to bring some clarity to it. It seems that right now scientists and politicians are forcing us to confront climate change, as if we do not have enough changes to contend with already in our society. So what exactly is climate change? We all learned in high school and college that our climate always changes from glacial periods to non-glacial periods over very long cycles of time. So I never quite understood, what are they talking about when they say climate change if our climate is already changing dramatically anyway? So what exactly are we supposed to be afraid of? And why don't countries like China and India agree with all of our scientists over here about climate change? This speech will clarify some of those things. So today, I brought with me some charts to answer some of the questions that we might have and to present some of the scientific evidence that we have. So here in this chart is a chart of basically the history of the entire planet Earth and how life evolved. Over here on the left is these little beige areas showing all the ice ages throughout the history of the planet Earth. Up here at the very top, this tiny sliver of beige is basically the last 2.5 million years and is called the Quaternary Age. This entire age is considered an ice age because throughout this entire 2.5 million year Quaternary Age, there has continuously been glacial sheet ice on at least Antarctica, and they think possibly Greenland for that whole time. This next chart is of the last 10,000 years. It's called the Holocene era, and it basically began at the end of the last glacial period. At the end of the last glacial period, it warmed up, and it's been relatively stable, warm temperatures for the last approximately 10,000 years. But starting in 2004, scientists began to tell us, hey, the Earth's temperature is warmer now than it ever has been in the last 10,000 years. So I believe this is what many scientists are calling climate change. And indeed, the data shows that the climate is warming up quite a bit, and it is hotter than any point in the last 10,000 years. However, there are many scientists that also say, wait a minute, no, humans don't control the climate. What they believe actually controls the climate is our planetary orbital cycles on our own axis and within our solar system. After they studied this and they correlated data from temperature changes on the planet, they saw that there was a pattern between our planetary orbital cycles and the cycles of our glacial and non-glacial periods. Here, this chart of 1 million years is showing us that we have glacial periods and non-glacial periods on a cycle of around 100,000 years. However, this next chart of the last 5 million years shows that it's not really as simple as just planetary cycles. Although we can see that the planetary cycles do in fact regulate the glacial and non-glacial times within our Quaternary Age, what they saw was that at one point these glacial cycles changed from 41,000 years between each cycle to a 100,000 year cycle. And we have no idea why that change happened. In addition, we don't know why the ice ages begin and end. And so these planetary cycles don't explain that. Also, apparently before 2.5 million years ago, the planetary cycles didn't really show up in the data. So, many people in China and India, many of their scientists are saying, hey, we don't need to sign on to the climate change treaties, like recently the Paris Treaty, and around 20 years ago, the Kyoto Protocol. They don't agree at all with the idea of significant carbon reductions. Their scientists would probably use this chart here, and they would rightfully so point out that over the last 500 million years, our planet has warmed up significantly several times. It's also cooled down significantly several times, and we've had all these periods of ice ages. During this entire period, they would also point out that complex life forms have lived on this planet the entire time. They would also probably say, well, all this happened well before the human race, so how could humans be responsible for changing the climate that dramatically? So really the question is, can humans really make significant long-term changes to the planet? There's people on both sides of that argument, actually, a lot of people. And in my research, what I found is that the predictions are kind of all across the board. There's people that say, due to our warming, we're just going to delay the next glacial age. There's people that say, due to our warming, we're going to permanently end the quaternary age, and there will be no more glacial ages at all. There's people that say, no, that's not true. Due to asteroid hits, extended solar minimums, megavolcanoes, glacial ages can begin very quickly. So I wish I could tell you what prediction would be the most accurate, but because they're so across the board, we now live in an environment where in our society, the only constant is change, and regarding the climate, the only certainty is uncertainty. Thank you.